Hey everyone, it's Concat. Welcome back to another video on the channel. So if you're watching this video on the day that it was posted, which is Thanksgiving by the way, so happy Thanksgiving to those of you who celebrate. Tomorrow on Friday, I will be doing a Legacy Challenge finale stream over on Twitch. For any of you who have ever seen any chaotic Legacy Challenge clips of mine, whether it be on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, feel free to drop by for the finale over on Twitch, like I said. But anyways, I feel like I'm finally in a good spot where I can actually make a how to start a Legacy Challenge and never get bored of it type of video. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be diving into a couple of things that I did throughout my Legacy Challenge run, I guess, that helped me stay with it and stick through it. So yeah, that is what we're going to be diving into today. But before we get into it, this video is sponsored by Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a website where you can get PC, console, and pre-release titles at a major discount. They have a variety of Sims 3 packs on their website, but if you're in your era of discovering new games, they have a huge selection on their website as well. And even though their games are already discounted, Instant Gaming is also doing a Black Friday sale, which starts November 28th to December 1st. So you're getting a deal on top of another deal, which is awesome. And if you're worried about Instant Gaming being legit, they are backed by over 700,000 reviews on Trustpilot. Any purchases made through my affiliate link will help support me directly. So thank you so much in advance for your support, and thanks to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. So we're starting off at the very basics. So what exactly is a Legacy Challenge? A Legacy Challenge is usually described as starting off with a singular sim who is your main focus, the sim that you mostly play as, which is your founder. Your founder usually starts off broke on a large empty lot with very limited funds. And the overall goal of a Legacy Challenge is usually to get to 10 generations or more, with obviously each generation having their own heir. Now, usually there is a set of rules and goals for each generation, but this kind of typically depends on which Legacy Challenge you are doing exactly, because there are several types of Legacy Challenges, but that is pretty much what overall a Legacy Challenge is to begin with. The way I think of it in my mind is you start off broke, struggling, and hopefully by Gen 10 your family is doing a lot better and you're rich and stunning. So like I briefly mentioned in the last point, there are different types of Legacy Challenges out there. Now, the one that I personally am doing and finishing up currently is just the regular Legacy Challenge. The point of it is just to get to 10 generations. You start off with a founder and you build the family's legacy throughout those 10 generations, pretty much. It's simple, easy to get into. There's no storyline that you have to follow for any of the gens. You have free will to do whatever you want to do, other than to cheat, obviously, but also the Legacy Challenge does have some rules, but they're not too bad. And so if you guys are looking for a Legacy Challenge to start, I would just highly recommend going this classical way. But like I said, there are so many challenges out there. There's something for everyone. Just to name a couple, there's the Not So Berry Challenge, Rainbow Legacy, Alphabet Legacy, Black Widow Challenge, and the next one that I'm doing is the Legacy Challenge. But the thing about a couple of these challenges is when you're doing your research, you're gonna see that a couple of them, not all of them, there is some structure to each generation, or like already a storyline there that you have to follow for each generation. For example, Gen 1, a rebellious teen, Gen 2, a smarty pants, straight A's, stuff like that. And I personally just do not like that, because when I'm playing girl, I don't really want to think about too many things. There's already a lot going on in the game and I don't want to get overwhelmed. So that's why my recommendation is, if you're trying to just get into a gameplay that you can keep going for a very long time, get attached to the Sims, just keep it simple and go with the classic Legacy Challenge. But again, like I said, there is something for everyone. So if there's a challenge that you have been really wanting to try, just go for it and see how it goes. And it also is worth noting that I had never done a Legacy Challenge like this before, or even a challenge in general before. So yeah, I went with the Legacy Challenge and I stuck to it and I liked it. But yeah, that's just my personal recommendation. All right, so we're going to be talking about how to get started with a Legacy Challenge. And by the way, yes, I am mostly referring to the classic Legacy Challenge throughout this video, but it can be applied to other challenges where the beginning is pretty similar to the classic Legacy Challenge, where basically you start off broke. So keep that in mind. But my number one tip for Gen 1 and creating your founder is to lean into the brokenness, okay? As you guys can see on the screen, this is my actual founder. This is episode 1 of my Legacy Challenge. She looks like she's been in the trenches. She's filled with mud. Her clothes isn't the cleanest looking because we were technically homeless, right? Or if anything, we were living in a shack with the tiny little bit of simoleons that we had. So I highly recommend that for your first gen, you lean into the struggle and the brokenness of it all, because that is what makes Gen 1 fun, is getting out of the trenches. You know what I mean? Also, this is just kind of like another small little tip from me personally. I know some people may actually like to have a storyline with their Sims, but for me, my Sim Mitzi, I didn't think about her background. I didn't think about where she came from, what's her life story, because that's too much for me personally. I just knew that I wanted someone who was obviously struggling with money. We had to, make our way out somehow. I didn't have to uphold this pre-written story that I had made up about her and, make it make sense in a way. I could just kind of play the game and do whatever, I want to do without having this pressure of following the storyline that I had already written about her. No, she was free to do whatever she wanted. Make your Sim, make them a little interesting. That's the fun of it, is not knowing who they are. You kind of discover that as you go. So next we're going to be talking about how to actually not get bored with your household. So these are just literally tips that I have been following throughout the 10 generations, or at least trying to follow. But anyways, the first tip is obviously do not cheat. This is probably the biggest tip that I have for you. Whether this be money, whether this be teleporting, whether this be their needs, don't cheat. The fun is in the struggle. I've said this multiple times throughout my legacy challenge, because there were times where people in my chat would be like, oh, just teleport them here, teleport them there. But even that to me is cheating, because I know it takes so long for your Sims to travel somewhere. That is okay. That is the point, yeah, girl, we're traveling, we're driving, we're running somewhere. It takes time. Another little small thing is also their needs. I know Sims are freaking annoying to deal with, but that is the fun of it. That is the fun of the Sims needs, and them needing to survive and live their freaking life and not starve to death. And if they do starve to death, drama. That is drama, and that is lore for your family. Hello? So do not cheat. That is my number one tip. Just don't do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Just don't do it. Struggle through it, girl. And I don't know. It just feels like a reward. Once everything is chill in the game, once you're good again, it's a reward. The other tip that I have for you is to actually try and complete your Sims lifetime wish, as well as their daily wishes. The daily ones are the ones that pop up every so often, and you get to pick and choose which ones you do, and try to get them as many lifetime reward points as you can. But again, especially going back to the lifetime wishes, which is what your Sim wants to fulfill for their life. There are a total of 86 lifetime wishes in The Sims 3, you guys, and I doubt any of us have completed even half of those. The most lifetime wishes that I have completed has been through my legacy challenge. I have never really cared to complete them before, and honestly, even when giving it my all, some of my heirs didn't even complete their lifetime wish. That is how hard some of them are to do. You need to put in the work and the time to actually get them done. And yes, some lifetime wishes are boring, some are repetitive, but pick one that you haven't really played with before. Pick one that you haven't tried out before, and I guarantee you it'll be a lot of fun trying to get it done, and it's very satisfying if your heir does complete it. So I highly recommend you guys start focusing on what your Sim wants to do and not just what you want them to do. And this tip kind of goes hand in hand with the next one, which is focus on the main heir so that you don't get overwhelmed. Because if you're trying to complete every single Sim's lifetime wish, that is way too freaking much. I get overwhelmed with just the heir's lifetime wish. And like I said, I haven't even completed them at times. Because if you end up getting overwhelmed with the gameplay and, there's too much going on, you're not going to want to play anymore because you can't keep up. And again, Sims are freaking annoying. They're always dying half of the time because of their needs. So it's just too much. Just focus on your heir. The only other thing that I would recommend for your side characters, aka anyone else in your household other than your heir, is to just set them up with a romantic partner if that's what you want, or put them in the career that you would like them to pursue, and then move them out and they can live their life. Listen, I love my heir's children, but that is not the priority. The priority is my current heir not dying, aka making it further along in the legacy challenge. So yeah. All right, so now we're jumping into other things to keep it fun. The first one is high free will. There has never been a time in my Legacy Challenge where my free will was not at full max. And unless the challenge that you may be playing requires something different, I would highly recommend having this maxed out all the time because it makes your Sims unpredictable. It gives them literal free will to do whatever they want to do. The next thing that I would do, and again, this just kind of depends on what challenge you are playing, but for the Legacy Challenge in particular, you had to take pictures of your heirs. I ended up taking a picture of every single heir in the challenge, and honestly, it's so much fun to look back on. We have it displayed in our house currently. I remember always saying that it would be kind of interesting to see how the genes progress throughout the 10 generations, and now that it's completed, it's pretty fun to look at and spot all the differences and see, you know, where certain genes changed and stuff like that. And it's just bittersweet, but I highly recommend you guys get pictures of your Sims. And no, I did not use a mod for that. I simply used my Sim's phone to take the picture. Yes, they would mess it up a lot of the times. I would get like a random sibling to take the picture for us and their fingers would be all over it or it would glitch. But again, that's just extra, you know, fun, I guess. Like I said, embrace the struggle, everyone. The next thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is making a relic room / collection room. We ended up basically creating like a museum of all of the things that we've collected throughout our Legacy Challenge. Like we still have things that date back all the way to our founder's era. We have one of her trophies, and we also have this picture, which is from our Sim named Maya. She got hit in the head by a meteor, and by the way, we do have the meteor that killed her as well displayed outside. But anyways, her picture is worth 22,000 simoleons. That's how much it appreciated since Gen 2 all the way to Gen 10. It's crazy. The next tip that I have to keep it fun is to assign a color or an aesthetic to each heir. So I was really good at assigning a color to them and an aesthetic, but where I did kind of struggle was giving each heir a bedroom in whatever aesthetic I would assign to them. So if you guys can do that and you remember to and you have time to, I would highly recommend you do that, because whenever I did give an heir, you know, a bedroom based on their aesthetic, it was really cute. I'm not gonna lie, but honestly, these Sims kept me busy. It was just too much for me, so that's why I didn't do it. And the next thing that goes very much so hand in hand is to assign a color to the actual house that you are building. And no, I don't mean change the aesthetic to the entire house whenever you have a new heir with a new aesthetic. That's too much work. Nobody has time for that. Keep the heir's aesthetic in their bedroom to make it easier, and then give your overall house, so kitchen, bathroom, living room, its own colors. So for example, our color scheme for the entire Legacy Challenge was green and blue for some reason. Our last name was Green, so I guess that's where that came from, but I'm not really too sure where the blue came in. But all I know is that we kept it and we stuck with it, and that is still our theme to this day, Gen 10. And I love it so much because it feels like it's the same house, it's just, you know, more upgraded, and now we're rich and not broke. Another thing that goes kind of hand in hand with this last tip is to never fully demolish your house. For example, like I said, we started off in a shack. There never was a time where I actually demolished the shack completely. If anything, I just added walls to it until eventually it grew bigger and bigger and bigger into the house that we now have. And I think that's also really fun because it is technically still the same house. So it still feels like, you know, somewhere hidden in there in our house is our little shack. And the last thing that I would recommend to keep it fun is to make a scrapbook. I am actually making a scrapbook of our Legacy Challenge. All of the screenshots that I've compiled, I have started making a scrapbook out of them. So that's been really fun. I'm just using Canva to make my scrapbook. But yeah, if you have a bunch of screenshots, you're not sure what to do with it, make a scrapbook of your family. It's really, really cute. Or if you don't really care to do a scrapbook, that's too much work for you. I totally get it. Make a family tree. There are so many websites out there. But yeah, either of these ways help kind of preserve your family's history, I suppose. All right, you guys, so that is the end of this video. I will say another little disclaimer and kind of a tip is the fact that I'm also a content creator really helped me stick through, because not only was I playing the gameplay obviously for myself because I love my Sims, but also for all of you guys because you guys really did enjoy them as well as much as I did. Other than that, I hope these tips were helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments down below which one you're going to be incorporating into your very own game. I'm very curious. And if you found this video helpful or just entertaining, make sure you let me know by hitting the thumbs up for me, please. That will really help me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.